Hey everyone, welcome back here to my channel where I play Planet Zoo. My name is Nissa and today I built a koala habitat, but I didn't stop there. We have a longer video because they don't have only this habitat. They can crawl all the way around here, and in the middle we have a little shop area, so we have a lot to do today. So if you want to see how I built it or learn a little bit about these beautiful koalas, then please keep watching. Okay guys, I know this is gonna be a long one, but I still think it's worth it, and I was intending to save this for Saturday because I like to do the longer ones in the weekend, but because it is so long, I didn't have time to make another one first. So yeah, that's just bad timing for me. But here we are. And I will say though, we are gonna use the same technique a lot, being the mud pillow technique. You can see I'm already doing it here. But we're gonna do it in a few different ways. This is actually, I'm not sure if this have a specific name, but I'm gonna use the mud pillar to angle grid items around, and it took me a little bit to figure out how, but you can actually do that so the stores here will not be on the same grid, and therefore technically will be as different buildings according to the game's understanding. So every time I move it around, I need to make sure to mark all of the buildings in here, and then we're gonna use the mud pillow technique more normally to build simple round building, but we're also gonna use it to make windows, we're gonna use it to make fence, we're gonna use it to make storefronts, we're gonna use it in a few different ways. So even though it's the same technique I use a lot, I'm gonna use it in different ways. We're also both gonna make a flat roof and an angle roof. So if you have issues with that, I will say this video may be extra for you today. However, we're also gonna talk a lot about the koalas. And in here, we of course have the Queensland Koala and the Victorian Koala. The Victorian Koala is a mud. I think it's... Oh, I'm not even sure who made it. Sorry. I should have been quicker on that. Yeah, sorry, here it is. The Victorian Koala is by Litle and Gabor, and I think I made a video on that last summer. The Queensland Koala is also a mod, but it is a remaster mod, which means it changes the koala you already have in the game. And the Queensland Koala remaster is made by Gabor, Bofsu, and Nawela, and I made that video this Monday, although no one have seen it yet, but it is up, so you can go and see that. And I will put the link for both video along with where my information today and where to download the mods, all in the description below. So there's a nice little hub for you down there to figure it out. And I also have a video leave where you can see how to install mods into a game if you are not sure. Or just if you haven't modded before in Planet Zoo, I really recommend you watch it before trying, because some games do it in a different way, and I think Planet Zoo actually is one of the more, not difficult, but they just have their own way of doing so. So I really recommend, if you haven't done it in Planet Zoo, watch that video. It's real good. But let's look a little bit about the koalas and how their family is structured. Not the koala families on their own, but like with other animals. They are, of course, from the animal kingdom, the phylum Chordata, the subphylum Vertebrata, meaning it's a vertebrate, class Mammalia. Infraclass is where it gets interesting. We have the Marsupialia infraclass. This is something that may ring a bell for some and not for some others, because it's not really how we usually say it in normal language. Normally we would say it's the infraclass with all of the marsupials. The marsupials is of course these animals that keep their babies, like give birth to half-baked babies, and then from there on off keep them in the pouch where they can develop fully, and then they will have a stage where they partially in the pouch, partially out, and then from there on they will be able to just be out and about. And we normally talk about animals like kangaroo, wallaby, wombat, koala, but there is 347 animals in this class, so it's not only them. If we go even more specific and look at the order, it's Diprotodontia. Did not pronounce that right. And that's probably a little more difficult for you to figure out. But that is 147 of the 347 animals that is in here. It is, of course, the koala, the quokka, the sugar glitter, and if we look at a little more famous animals, we have the red kangaroo, the common bush-tail possum, all of the possums, of course, all the kangaroos, the wombats, wallabies. We have more here, more wallabies, more wombats. We have more possums. We also have like the squirrel glitter, the potoro, again wallaby. We have a lot of animals. I'm sorry, I said glitter. It is glider. Not sure why I keep saying glitter, but we all want a glitter animal, so why not? But it is those kinds of animals. Again, it's all marsupials, but not all of them. Some, of course, more famous than others. But if we go all the way down to family and think who is in the same family group as the koala, I'm gonna open it here, and it's actually a really short list. Normally, when we get down to family, it's either like, for instance, big cats have their own family, small cats have their own family. Cats is not a family. Just to compare it to, with the kangaroo, we have all of the kangaroos and wallabies in the same family. When it comes to koala, the only person is the koala. They don't have like koala subspecies, they don't have wombats, they don't have possums, they don't have anything in here. They have their completely own family, which is interesting, and that is the Phascolactidae, which then give them the genus. The genus is normally the first word of the Latin name for animal, so the genus is the Phascolarctos, which gives them the Latin name Phascolarctos cinereus. Sorry. And what I find really interesting here when I looked at this first time was the fact that what happens with all the subspecies of koalas. In here we already have 2, and I know there's more. So what happens to them? Do they have another family, or what is it? What's going on here? But the thing is that koalas don't have subspecies. They have small divergence in behavior and or fur, both texture or color, but it can also be different in size. You can get koalas that looks in different ways based on where they live, which would be the 4 variation that's mostly talked about is the Queenslands, New South Wales, Victoria, and South Australia. But these aren't officially subspecies. They are just variations. This is actually something we have seen before, for instance with the northern lion, where you have northern lion in Africa, but you also have northern lion in India. And both of them have the same genetic and are technically the exact same subspecies of lion, but they do have different appearances. which is interesting. We also talked about the Bonnie and clouded leopard that before, I think it was 2005, just was another variant, but later were actually registered as a subspecies. So you can go for a variant to a subspecies over time. I'm not sure how they do that, and I also know there are some variants where you earlier thought it was subspecies, but it wasn't. I'm not sure who decides this, but it is kind of interesting that at current age we do not have subspecies of koalas, but we could technically get 4 at least, maybe next year or in 10 years or in 100 years. I will say though, I asked Google about these subspecies just to verify it. I found different sites that stated that some of them were variants and some of them were subspecies, but no website I would actually trust. It was more like a fan site. It was Wikipedia where everyone can add. It was a site where there's not much documentation for it. Where Animalia, which I usually use, I feel like they have a good reference where you can see they got the information from. Most of their information make a lot of sense, and I'm used to using it, so I feel like I have like not a relationship with the site, but it's not like some websites you feel like some of the information is good, and then you read another article and then you just this doesn't make sense, basically, where all of the article I have read in here on Animalia looks really legit, so I'm gonna go by that mainly. But just to help you a little bit how much difference there can be, you can see when I put the animals in here, you can actually see a clear difference both in color between the two, again, Queensland and Victorian koalas, but you can also see a major size difference, which I find very interesting, because from Queensland to Victoria, it isn't like Africa, Asia. It's not like a massive distance. It's still the same island as far as I know. Again, sorry, I'm not that well known in Oceania, basically, but I think it's the same island. But the koala is mainly found here in Australia, of course, but on the mainland, mostly in the eastern and southern regions, close to the coast. Again, being Queensland, New South Wales, Victoria, and South Australia. And though a lot of the information of them can vary a lot, they still, all of them basically live for around 15 years and have a top speed for about 10 kilometers per hour. They weigh between 4 and 15 kilos, being between 8 and 30 pounds. So here you can see there's clearly a big span, and they have a height between 60 and 85 centimeters, being just over 2 foot to just under 3 foot. Sorry. They have this very noticeable nose and this face shape that is roughly the same for all of them. Then they have this quite unique fur texture I have talked before about on this channel, that have this kind of nummy greasy fur that sticks together a little bit by like wool, but much shorter. They have longer hairs about the ears, which are kind of big compared to the rest of the body, and they do have no tail. Their body are made very much for climbing, so they have these kind of beak-shaped claws that really can get in there in the tree to keep them up or help them climb around. Because the koala is one of the unlucky ones when it comes to forest fires in these areas, there is a lot of pictures out there of koalas in really bad basically bad situations where they can either die for their wounds or already dead or just don't look that great. So therefore, if you choose to Google pictures of koalas, just keep in mind that some of the pictures that come up may not be the one you actually want to see. I know I already mentioned a little bit about where they live, but if you want to build a habitat, again, you want some more informations. Again, these 4 specific regions of mainland Australia, but for biomes, we have the forest, the woodland, and the riparian. Again, they like to be around water, but they also need the trees to protect them, basically, and a lot of food. I will comment on that later. For climate zones, they stay within the tropical, arid, or temperate. However, keep in mind, even if you give them a arid climate zone habitat, it doesn't necessarily mean desert, because deserts rarely have these really thick vegetations that the koalas need. So you need to keep in mind that you need both to have one of these biomes and one of these climate zones. You cannot go for just one of all of these. Koalas are almost completely arboreal animals. It's rarely that you actually see an animal that is completely, but they spend all of their chosen times up in a tree. It can be that they need to move from one tree to another without being able to do it up in the tree, so they need to get down. But they are extremely vulnerable and extremely slow when they move on the ground. They will all have their own place to live and only meet each other when it's the mating season, where they will get closer to each other in places with plenty of food for everyone. But they will still pick their own tree and do not really like to invite anyone up in their tree. Just to go back to my speed build for a second, I use a lot of time to make sure that they can actually climb around and making these climbing structure fit so the game recognize it. So yeah, I even go back after the entire build, add a few ropes and such, so I know I can make it work in that way. It was a little difficult. I thought when I was done with the build I had it all figured out, but then suddenly they couldn't move around anymore and I had to go in and add things. I only added rope, but I did it a few different places. I think in the video you will only see me add one. A koala life is probably a life that a lot of teenage humans would prefer, where they can sleep roughly as close as possible to a lot of eclipses during the entire day, then walk a little bit around, or not necessarily walk, but climb a little bit around during the early morning or the late evening, a little bit through the night, but basically just sleep and sleep and sleep some more. This is also why it's a good thing. The way I built this, you can see that the guests will only be able to see half the habitat, even though they can get really close to them and all the way around a big part of the habitat. You have the part behind, you can see here, behind the shops, where the koalas will have their sleeping place, so they can go back there, get some peace and quiet. The staff will be able to see them though, but they will be away from noisy kids, people yelling at them, prodding at them, as long as they basically want to. That's also why I put the roof here, so it's a little bit darker, so they can have some peace doing as much as they want to, especially because I'm unable to give it as many trees in here as I actually would like to give them. Though they do also sleep in the other parts of the habitat, but that's their own choice. However, in a zoo, you can actually, in a good way, give the koalas more energy and make sure that they sleep a little less than they would in nature. In nature, they eat exactly what they want, and they eat many eucalyptus. We have talked about eucalyptus before on my channel, but it is a plant that is really rough for the system to break down. and you don't get a lot of nutrition out of it. And that's why koalas are so tired, because their body works to break down this food and don't really get that much energy back from the food. Big issue. They do, however, also supplement with Melaleuca and foliage from Leptospermum and acacias. This is something you can infect in the zoo. Again, give them a little less eucalyptus and give them a little more of the other. Give them some extra vitamins you add to the food or something like that to give them that extra power of energy. However, their body are built to live this certain way, so you can't like give them change their diet completely, but you can like add if again, koala normally would eat like 30 leaves of eucalyptus and one of the others. Then here you can maybe so they eat like 25 leaves of eucalyptus and 4 or 5 of the others to kind of give it a little push in the right direction. However, this is one of and I love koalas. I don't think they should go extinct, but this is one of the animals where I kind of feel like they don't deserve to be, because this is where evolution is just stupid and goes in a weird direction. Again, I still love the animal and I still happy that they're here. It just doesn't make sense that evolution would move this way. And trust me guys, it's gonna get worse. But before I tell you about that, as previously mentioned, the koalas meet this once a year to actually accept living next to someone else once a year, the mating season, which is between December and March. Not all of them though will get to mate. Well, all of the females get lucky, but only the most dominant male between the males available. Then after this, the females will be pregnant for about 35 days, giving them a single joey. I will just mention joey as a word we also used before on my channel with both wombats. Not wombats, wallabies and kangaroos. I'm not sure if you use it for wombat also, but I just think it's funny because it's not animals. I know they're marsupials, but it's not animals you actually look at and conclude is the same kind of animal. It's only like more scientific after we figured this out about the pouch. But it's called a joey until the point where it permanently leaves the pouch. It will live permanently in the pouch for about 5 to 6 months, where it will live completely off the mother's milk, but be weaned about the 6-month mark. After this, they will start moving around, but still be able to crawl back in when it needs to. It will start eating more sustainable food, and they do actually find it themselves. It's more the place they find them that I find issue with. Some animals just bring their babies food, and some animals throw up and the babies will eat that. Koalas just poop, and then the baby will go through the poop and find food leftovers within the poop. I warned you this was getting worse. Again, I do not understand evolution here. At the age of 7 months, the baby will be a young koala and no longer a joey, therefore it will have to leave the pouch, but it's not done with the mom carrying it around. So instead of carrying the baby around in the pouch, it will be carrying the baby around on its back, again 7 months old, and they grow a lot faster than human babies. It will be independent at the age of 1 year, but won't completely move away right away. It will stay with the mom for a few months just to you know, with humans, some of us just want to wait a little longer than others, and the koalas just like to be around their mom. It's not like with some animals where either the mom will hunt the baby out of the area at some point, or the baby will just move out as fast as possible. Here, it would be able to take care of itself completely. They don't need their mama at age 1, but they don't move out right away unless something happens to the mom, of course. This is also why it's very important when you find these young koalas after, for instance, a bushfire, to date their age as closely as possible, because there is a window here where would they need their mother or would they not? Which way do you need to take care of it if it's not able to take care of itself, if it got hurt? Again, we have seen koalas lacking ears, fingers. Again, they need all of their claws to be able to live as a koala in the trees. So again, it's very, very important to know what age exactly the koala or Joey is, to know, well, was it just liking being around the mom, or did it actually need the mom? Especially if the mom is not there anymore. Female koalas will be sexually mature about the age of 2 to 3 years old. Males a year later, between 3 and 4 years old. Koalas do not always have the easiest lives, and I have already mentioned the bushfires a lot, and it's mainly because that's when we hear about the koalas in Denmark. Basically, we don't hear, unless it's a dedicated program to them. It's not one of the go-to animals we hear a lot about. However, we do hear a lot about natural disasters, and here they are one of the things that comes up a lot. They are also threatened by various diseases and droughts in the area. Again, not only that they need water, but they do live mainly off eucalyptus. And if that dries out, it will die. And then the koalas who need it will also die. But these are just the small issues. The main issues here is the destruction, fragmentation, and the alteration of their natural range. Again, this can be on purpose. It can also be on accident. Again, forest fires are also attributed to this, but it can also be something as basic of, we need a road to go through this area. It needs to be here, so you put down the road, and now you have 2 forests instead of 1. And furthermore, you also need the koalas to still be able to pass through, either for mating season or simply for food. And when cars drive on these roads, they accidentally kill the koalas once in a while. We, of course, also have these alterations of the areas where people move in, or they basically just change the forest, like they chop down parts of the forest. All of these small alterations in the forest can have effect on the ecosystem in the area. Again, maybe that leads to something else getting killed, that leads to something else. Again, we have with the water just can kill, or lack of water can kill the eucalyptus. You could also accidentally chop down a bigger tree and it landed on a big field of eucalyptus. And when you live primarily of one food source, you are extremely vulnerable there. It is also an issue that your home is getting destroyed. Again, some places they chop down the entire forest, or it get destroyed by it. Like, not only for the wood, but also we need a city here or something like that. The koalas haven't really won the lottery on this. However, there is still about 300,000 mature individuals across Australia, which at this point put them as vulnerable according to the IUCN Red List. Again, it means that they are not technically endangered, but they do have issues, and the scale can either way. I'm not sure if how much of this would change if you went in and gave all of the variants here subspecies. I would personally think that would be real fascinating if it's one species is extremely critical endangered and the 3 others have better numbers or something like that. I would really like to see some information on that. But I do not have that here, and I do not have it like in a way where I feel like it's legit. As always, you should always be critical with things you either hear or read on the internet, and that also includes my videos. I want information to get out there, but there is a possibility that when I say something that I either got from a good place, that I misunderstood something and therefore say something wrong. It's also a possibility that you misunderstand something I said. It's also a possibility that some new studies since the information I got have come out and disproven what I already stated. I just thought, since I have a little time here, I would just want to mention it, because I do not want anyone to take away from my videos that everything I say is the only truth out there and the 100% accurate truth. Always read more about these animals, learn more about them, do your best to get the knowledge you want. Again, I understand some people don't care about these things, but I'm pretty sure if you have been here so long into this video, it's because it's something you care about. And I can only recommend, and even if you don't want to read, there's so many good documentaries. It's just easier for me to actually use written materials in these videos. However, I do enjoy a good documentary, especially about the ocean, dinosaurs, cats, behind the scenery in zoos and so on. I find it extremely fascinating, and I'm always here to learn more. So therefore, if there's any information about the koalas I forgot today, please add it in the comment section below. I would really appreciate learning more about them. However, again, everything you learn from the internet, take it with a grain of salt. But I also know I have some people watching my videos that actually know things about what I'm saying. For instance, some of these Latin words, some people once in a while write to me and say if I pronounce it wrong or right. I always try my best to pronounce it, but I'm not good at it. But just to throw it back to the speed build here today, I really enjoyed building it. It's one of those builds where I just wanted to keep building, but at some point you just keep changing things you already liked, so it doesn't make sense at some point. Then I rather build something else with the other ideas another time. I'm not gonna finish out all of the foliage out here. I'm only gonna make these 2 small flower beds because I have some thoughts about what's gonna happen on the other side. But it seems like it's about that time, so please guys, enjoy the cinematics and I will come back afterwards. Okay, guys, I couldn't figure out where to put the finishing picture today because there's a lot and I cannot show it all at once. But I really hope you enjoyed it and I really hope you learned something here today. So as always, guys, you know the drill, like, subscribe and turn on the bell notification so you know the next time I upload a video. Really hope to see you again either in the comments below or in the next video. Bye, guys.